There we go. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industries. And of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We are joined today by, there we go, that's better. I get my lower third there. Kurt Sasso. See? I'm on Twitter. I'm on, whatever. Anyhow, we are on episode 367, plus however many video interviews I've done over the past 6 years, and joined today by an illustrator, a comic creator, a very talented individual in his own right, and we'll talk to him about that, of course. A creator of a comic that I just recently found called Walter the Wicked. We're joined today by Mike Hearn. How are you doing today, Mike?
Very well, Kurt. How are you?
I'm alive, kicking, and having a good time, so it's all good.
Nice.
Let's talk about Walter the Wicked, because this is something that I found through the Webcomic Creators group through Facebook. You had appeared on my radar once or twice before, and I apologize for just getting around to you now, but I've enjoyed what you have so far. For those that have never actually read Walter the Wicked, which can be found at walterthewicked.com, tell us what it's all about.
There's two ways that I know to pitch these things, and I'm never really sure what the etiquette is anymore because there's the obvious, and then there's the the being original and creative. The original and creative is it's medieval magical mayhem focusing on the bad guy. It's a kid-friendly, it's a PG thing, so it's never anything cruel or malicious or anything like that. It's a lot of fun. The more obvious way to describe it, and this you could tell me this maybe if this is taboo or not, but it's basically Pinky and the Brain meets medieval magic. That's the general summary right there. And the reason I ask it is because I'm never actually sure. I think that some people come down on you when you compare your work to something else.
No, I don't think it's taboo at all. I think it's more name recognition. It's something that people are familiar with. And I've seen a lot of comic creators do that. It's like Justice League meets this, or it's like DC. It's like Marvel meets this, and
good. Then
I've seen a lot of comparisons. Yeah. No, it's those that are old enough to remember Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs, like some of us are. Had some fond memories of that. So yeah, it's very easy. You could even go. It's Pinky and the Brain meets Orko from He-Man or something like that.
Yeah.
Or Skeletor. Whatever. If you wanted to go that route.
There you go.
So that's really stretching a little bit. But how long have you been doing Walter the Wicked, and what else do you do creatively?
Coming up on a year on the comic. I gotta check the actual date on that. I'm pretty sure it's either in June or July that I hit a year. I gotta check that soon because I should probably plan something to celebrate that. And creatively, before that, I did a lot of guest work here and there, mostly for Twext.com. That's the Oliver brothers. They're actually their family, so they ask me for art and they get it because they're family. But beyond that, my day job is I'm a product designer. I design awards and trophies, so I'm pretty much drawing all day, every day, in one way, shape, or form or another.
That's neat. What type of trophies do you do?
A lot of work for banks. Banks have this area that they call tombstones, and basically, whenever they put a deal to rest, they celebrate their moneyness, is how I like to describe it, by ordering these toys to celebrate the deal. So when X company buys Y company for $100 million, and CIBC funds the deal, then they want to celebrate that with some kind of a toy. So.
Oh yes, people and their trophies.
It's a ludicrous business. It's dust collectors, but it pays my bills and it's actually fun to do. So pretty hard to knock it, really.
No, it's fun. I'm sure you have some interesting stories to tell about that you could possibly tell off air, but
yes.
Well, let's talk about the comic itself, because y- when you see your style, it's actually a very colorful style. I think it's very reminiscent of the early '90s and possibly into the late '80s as well, in terms of the color palettes,
Yep.
which are very pleasing to the eye. By the way, I enjoy them.
Well, thank you.
Um, yeah, what is it about this particular character that you wanted to really showcase then?
Walter's got kind of a funny origin, and I don't know. This seems pretty typical, I guess, of anybody who takes anything, to the next level. He started out as nothing. It was a one-off gag. There's a guy on my Twitter feed, a good friend of mine named Walter, and he posted a joke. Basically, just was screwing around and said, despite my best efforts, another Monday has come, and uh, so basically, I'm the smartass that I am. So I wrote back to him, damn it, Walter, you're supposed to make the sacrifice to Gozer, not Gonzo. And that's the first strip right there. That is the whole first strip comes from me being a smartass on Twitter. And so I sat down and I thought, okay, I have to make this a comic. I had no intention at this point to make it an ongoing strip, to make it anything more than just a one shot. In fact, I was going to ask. In fact, I think I did when I started drawing. I asked my cousins over at Twex to just post it for me. Just you guys put it up. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. But when I drew it, I liked the look of Walter and Smigor so much that I felt there was something more to it, and so I've been pursuing it ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing what a simple concept or a simple idea can sprout into. It's the power of creativity right there.
It really is. I mean, it's funny if you think about anything too hard. That's when it doesn't work. At least in my experience, anything that I have ever kind of pushed successfully, in the beginning, doesn't. If I think about it too hard, it dies. Once it goes, things require lots of work. Things require dedication, and all that. I'll enter your buzzwords here, but really, I'm only talking about the beginning. Walter definitely is a share of work, but not in the foreground. I don't really know how else to describe that. It's funny that you mentioned the '90s, '80s aesthetic. That's my generation. I'm 34 years old, so I was born in '79. And so that's the era that I come from. And actually, I started learning to draw from video game manuals. That was
Nice.
probably my first influence. So I think the first thing that I drew that I liked was probably Mouser from the Super Mario Brothers 2 manual. Yeah, if anybody's watching this elsewhere, that's the North American Super Mario Brothers 2. That might be obvious, but it's not. But yeah, so that's my style is still very, very heavily influenced by video game aesthetics.
Yeah, no, it's I'm the same age, so we're in that wheelhouse. I know exactly what you're talking about and going for, and the old NES days, the old Neo Geo back in the
Yep.
day, or if you want to go even older, you want to go Commodore 64 with the that aspect too. So
I had a VIC-20 with the tape player that you get the games on the cassette. Like that's our kids. My daughter won't have a clue what a cassette is. She'll hear somewhere down the line that they played music. When I tell her that there were video games on these things, I think it'll blow her mind.
if that happens, you make that into a Walter the Wicked comic.
Yes, indeed.
Oh gosh, what is it about the generation of the '80s and the '90s that you're most fond of?
You want to talk about a property or just the generality of it?
Let's talk about properties first and go into the generalities after.
Property-wise, probably Transformers were huge for me. I'm a huge Transformers fan. I hate the movies. Oh, good God, I hate the movies. I'm an '80s apologist, like in the sense, like I know that it was terrible. I know that if it was adapted to screen exactly as it was, that it would be terrible. Except that it's funny knowing that. I also know it's not true because I love the '80s movie, the one with Unicron and everything. That it is the cheesiest crap on the universe, and I love it to death. It still makes me smile. I put that thing on. So yeah, no, I was a huge Transformers fan, a huge video game fan. Um, I don't think I had a lot of video games. Like I didn't come from a very well-to-do house, but we rented a lot, and so I've played everything. Mega Man is actually a really huge influence on the art. That was a lot of fun. The strip I just did most recently, I do the I've got this gag that I'm running. I've done 2 now, and I'm just going to keep it going. That I call it the cursed palette, and really it's just an excuse for me to draw something that I'm a big fan of, but put it into Walter's world, and so that's yeah. So I mean that's it. Like I was into just about everything else. I think the only things that I wasn't really into, I never really got into G.I. Joe. I enjoyed it, but I never really got into it. I never really got into He-Man. Neither of those really captured my interest, but Transformers, Real Ghostbusters, what else did Thundercats. God, some of those things are unwatchable now, though. Like Transformers, I still love the movie, but the cartoon, I tried showing it to my little girl. I can sit through that. That's probably my rose-colored, nostalgia glasses making that work. But Real Ghostbusters, oh my God, I was so disappointed by that when I went back to that. That was my favorite thing as a kid. I remember being that, like, I think I liked that as a smaller child even more than Transformers. I think Transformers kind of held on longer, but the Real Ghostbusters was I had to watch every single episode. I sit there, and so I thought, okay, I'm going to show this to my little girl. It's boring. It's beautiful. It's well animated. The jokes are okay when they're there, but oh my goodness, it's a half hour and it feels like 3. I don't know, like, why did I like this? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Same thing.
I think it was because of the movie.
Thundercats. I went back to that and it was the exact same thing. I was just like, "What? How did this hold any of our interest? This is boring as crap."
We were. It was a simpler time back then.
I mean, you look at the cartoons they got now. Like I'm a big cartoon watcher still, so I watch all the latest stuff. Like I'm watching the newest Ninja Turtles with my little girl, and she loves Avatar and Korra and what are some of the other new ones that we've gotten into? She loved the new not Ultimate Spider-Man. We watch it, but we're not really into that. But the one before it, Amazing, I think it was. No, Spectacular. Yeah, that was really good, and so yeah, I still watch cartoons with her, but holy crap, do they blow our cartoons out of the water? Like just annihilate them. I'm just like, wow, you have no idea how good you have it.
Well, I don't know. I still think Batman the Animated Series, X-Men, and Spider-Man in the mid-'90s really still hold up after all this time.
Batman, I'll grant you. Batman through Justice League is like it's just well written. Like it's not even. I don't consider that for kids. Like I put Avatar and Korra and Gargoyles and they're just good stories. If you're an adult and you can't get into these things, it's a cartoon. Well, you're missing out because it's they're just good. They're just good entertaining stories. But the '90s Spider-Man was okay. '90s X-Men was okay. What they really lacked, in my view, was the really good cohesive story. Like they both tried, they both had kind of an ongoing narrative, but again, nothing like what the kids are getting today.
Yeah, that's true, very true. We're not even gonna talk about Fantastic Four. That was just painful.
Oh goodness, I remember trying to watch that. I didn't get comics as a kid. Like I picked them up occasionally, but I wasn't into them, and it wasn't my thing. So I knew of the Fantastic Four only peripherally, right? And so then when you see that's on, okay, well I like Spider-Man and I like X-Men, maybe I'll like this. And oh my God, that was like, what the heck were they thinking? Yeah,
I felt almost like the.
Sorry, I think we're both talking at the same time.
Yeah, good. You go first.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm trying to think. Wasn't there 2 on when we were the kids? Because there was the one with Herbie, but that was when we were really little. The one with the Herbie the robot, that wasn't really our time, although it was on in our time. The one when we were kids did have the Human Torch, didn't it? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
And well, they were both equally terrible, right?
Yeah.
Neither of them were good, but yeah.
It was the voice acting, I think it was. Voice acting, the animation was fine. It was just Similar to the Spider-Man and X-Men, well, the last two seasons of X-Men, I should say, with the crappy drawing. God,
Yes.
did they do horrible? It's like Rob Liefeld took a dump on it in the last two seasons or something. It was so painful.
Oh man.
Um, yeah, but that aside, though, I mean, we come from an era or decades rather that had some really great memorabilia in terms of animation. But yeah, looking back on it now, it's like compared to what we've seen with the anime, manga, American cartoons, with especially with the Avatar, the visual effects you can do nowadays. Why would we want to go back to the 80s other than our nostalgia factor and membership card?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing that you read a lot of critics these days that are just railing on remakes, and I wouldn't say that there's something that's untouchable for me. There probably is. I don't know that I could think of it right now. But I mean, that's where the whole desire for Hollywood to make remakes comes from. Aside from money, money's number one, and then way distant second is that the desire is there, because you get like everything that comes out of the '80s, be it the cartoons that we watch, the cheesy horror movies like the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the Hellraisers and all that. All of this stuff works better. I should say most of it works better conceptually than it actually worked, which is why it settles in. Like when you hit that sweet spot, and it's different for everybody, and it's different for every product, right? So for cartoons, the sweet spot is like 4 to 12, and then for movies, the sweet spot is 12 to 18 or whatever. I'm pulling numbers out of my butt, but you get the idea. You hit that sweet spot. If the concept is good, you remember it as good, no matter how crappy the actual thing is. And then later, when you get out of that sweet spot, you can see, oh wow, that was a really giant piece of crap. But I like the idea.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely understand that for sure. And same with the Michael Bay remakes of everything. Just totally crapping on our childhood as it is. It's just like, okay, first Transformer film. All right, it was new. It was something that was interesting concept again. Horrible actors, but it was something that, okay, finally we see them in their life size rather than, hey, look, Optimus Prime's only 10 feet tall and the nearest human's only 6 foot. Well, hey, he's up to his hip. That doesn't quite seem right.
That's the only one I own. I only own the first one. I feel burned. Like being a big Transformers fan, I feel really burned by the movies. The first one, that was my stance on it initially. It was okay. We got to see him on the big screen. The problems were mostly you could put them aside, and so I liked it enough to buy the DVD of it. But upon later viewings, and then when you look at the taint that's put on it by the last two, it actually doesn't. It's worse. It's worse than you remember. I'm not going to tell you to think, except that I am. It's worse than you remember. No, I feel genuinely burned. Like because I hold the property pretty dear. To get just a passable on the first one, then the second one was just insulting. I didn't pay to see the third one. I ended up watching it on Netflix after it had been on Netflix for like 3 months. Like I had to like drag myself to, okay, I should see this. It's not costing me anything than what I've already paid, so I'll watch it. And it was just bad. It was just so terrible. I will not go to this new one. I will not see it. I won't rent it. I won't buy it. If it goes on Netflix again, maybe I'll give it a chance. But I mean, like they should be hitting all my sweet spots. They got Optimus Prime and is back as a primary feature. They got the Dinobots. The Dinobots are awesome. Like I got the Dinobots. It looks like they're doing Galvatron from what I read, which probably means Unicron in some way, shape, or form. These are like, this should all be my sweet spots. No. You know what I gotta say to you, Michael Bay? Yeah, that's what I gotta say to you. You are not getting 1 red cent of my money for this movie. You can put everything in it. You could have. It could be a live action reinterpretation of the '80s movie, and I still won't. You're not getting any of my money. No way.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, no, I saw the third one. Actually, I didn't see it in theaters. I was in Chicago for C2E2, and I think we were just waiting for it to open type deal, and I needed to get batteries or something, so I went with a friend of mine to a Best Buy. They had the huge 60-inch LED plasma type TV up with like the sweet seats around it with nice surround sound.
Nice.
I just sat down and watched it right there. I was like,
Nice.
Meanwhile, the Best Buy personnel are like kind of hovering, saying, "Oh, can we help you with anything?" No, no, we're good, thanks.
See, you did one better than me. I paid for my Netflix subscription, so.
Let's talk about yourself. Well, creativity is a big thing I'm kind of going on, especially when it comes to this class I'm taking. But of course, when I talk to people, everyone has different views when it comes to creativity, and I think you have a great mindset for these questions that I want to ask you. Um, where do you draw your inspiration from? Which you kind of hit upon, but maybe we can go a little deeper into that with the question of what is your muse like?
My news?
Your muse.
Oh, muse. I I would definitely still say cartoons and video games. I mean, really, that's probably the most primary thing where I put my entertainment focus. There are shows that my wife and I watch together. We love Game of Thrones and Castle and other things like that. But I wouldn't say that those influence my work. They're more of guilty pleasures isn't quite the same thing because Game of Thrones is not a guilty pleasure, but they're more. That's where I shut my brain off. Where my focus goes is still video games and cartoons. It's still and I think probably at least in terms of like this, I haven't really gotten into this too much with Walter yet because I'm still trying to find the balance between an ongoing narrative and a gag a day kind of a strip because I don't, time is very limited on my behalf, so I can't really do like an epic narrative. I certainly don't have the time to work that out, but I have a real inkling towards an ongoing story. That was my favorite thing in cartoons growing up. Is my favorite thing in cartoons now. I love video game sequels. Anything that draws from the past, anything that keeps on going and moving forward. That's a big influence on what I try to do. So it creeps its way in even into Walter's very gag a day kind of world. I just can't resist not telling a story. So.
No, I agree. It's I was just trying to figure out which one it was because you mentioned Mega Man in yours, and I know there's a Kickstarter video game that's supposed to be funded called
Mighty Nine.
Mighty Number 9. That's
yep.
it. Yeah, Mighty 9. That's it. I'm looking forward to that one actually because I love the old Mega Mans because I played it on the Game Boy. So the original Game Boy games, which were they were brutal.
The Game Boy versions of anything was more difficult because they anything that they would do to compensate for the lack of hardware seemed to make the game more difficult. It was just inevitable.
I remember breaking my original Game Boy over my forehead because of Super Mario Land World 4 2. Stupid water level.
Water level's the bane of every gamer.
It's just squids. Seriously, squids? Like, come on. Yeah, it's just like that was my first and only rage quit aspect. I've since calmed down, sort of.
I can't remember if I ever actually broke a controller. I think I broke one. Hitting it against the wall. Most of the time, I was pretty good at going for the bed, or sometimes I even intentionally put a pillow on the ground. I can't afford to replace this. So, if I'm going to be an angry idiot, I got to do this. I got to do this smart. I was a smart angry idiot most of the time.
That's pretty good. When it comes to oh gosh, yeah, things we did when we were kids, just like how did we get away with half the stuff we did? It's pretty crazy, and we're still alive too. That's
it's a different world. It's a crazy different world that our kids are going into. Like my girl starts school in September, and it's funny. I tell this story to my grandparents, and everybody seems to agree. Like my grandparents, my uncles, and every generation seems to agree. Our generation has more in common with our grandparents' generation and our parents have more in common with their generation. Like there's not a drastic difference. So with the world that we grew up in, it was not drastically different from the world our parents grew up in or the world our grandparents grew up in. Go back a little further, it starts to get a little more drastically different, and there are differences, but for the most part, really, they're very, very much the same. The world my girl is growing up into, I can't even see it. I have no idea what it's going to be like. Like, because the thing of it is, her being only 4 now, um,
Mm.
it's going to be vastly. I can't even. There's no way to even predict what it's going to be like by the time she's 12, 16, 22. There's just no idea. Got nothing. Whereas our parents, could look to where we are now, and they were probably pretty close to right.
I can agree with that for sure. It's amazing what, especially going back to university as I am. I'm at least a decade, almost 2 decades older than my fellow students and classmates as well, and it's like I hate to almost pull up the get off my lawn, you young pups type thing, but it's like like I remember when it's like back in my day we used to have controllers and all this stuff, and damn it with your loud rock and roll music and that techno mumbo jumbo and
This
what the hell are you doing?
It's dubstep for me. I don't get dubstep. I wouldn't say I hate it, but I don't get it. So my mom must have listened to some of the crap. Oh my God, the '80s like pop, rap, rock crap that we had. Like it is crap now, and I just you really got to hope that the kid's gonna look back at dubstep and think, what the hell were we thinking? It's freaking noise. Like a lot of that's used all the time to say I don't get your music, it's noise, right? But no, most of the time you can find some kind of artistic merit, and I'm going to be proven wrong. Somebody will find some kind of artistic merit in dubstep, but for me, it's noise.
I mean, come on, we had at least hair metal bands and like hard rock and roll and
That's right.
the good old days of all that stuff. And but oh god, this is horrible. I'm sure there's going to be fellow students that look back on my show and like, wow, he's an old fart,
Yeah, I know the feeling, man.
But it's fun. It's interesting to see what this new generation is going through, and keeping an open mind about things. It's like you're seeing new music, you're seeing new ways of being creative with technology. You're seeing so many different avenues and aspects that you might not have gone through personally. I mean, especially with the way technology is these days, you can access creative people from around the world and see things that you might not have tried yourself too. So from that type of question, have you ever tried something that has turned into a happy mistake?
Happy mistake. That's a really good question. I honestly don't think I have an answer for you on that one. I wouldn't know what to tell you. I suppose the only thing that I could think of there would just be where I've lived in my life. I spent 5 years up in Elliott Lake, Ontario, and that's between Sault Ste. Marie and Sudbury. If you're not familiar with the area there, and I went up. That's how I got into the career that I have now. There's a factory up there that makes glass awards and trophies, and they posted a job online, and they needed somebody with a CAD background. And while I was an illustrator, I had CAD from high school, and I just kind of stuck with it. I liked AutoCAD, and so I just stuck with it. Yeah. So that got me the job. So I moved all the way up there from Niagara. I'm from St. Catharines originally, and that culture shock, man, oh man, they basically every time everybody asks me to describe what's it like living up north. What was it like? Because I don't live there anymore. I live in Midland now. But what was it like living up north? And basically, I would explain to them that all the jokes about the southern United States, same thing. It's like it's the further away you get from the border, the jokes just apply in exactly the same direction. It wasn't a mistake because it forwarded my career. I'm working for a different company now, but it allowed me to work from home. I made a name for myself and went from there. So I guess that you could look at that as a happy mistake. I think probably more what you're looking for is like an artistic. Did I do something that I hated and it worked out? There's got to be something I just don't got. I got nothing. So I thought I'd just give you an answer anyway.
Hey, that's perfectly fine for me. I was gonna say, as a segue, Bob Ross had a happy little accident, just a little
yes.
fluffy cloud.
Yes.
um, when it comes down to it, though, what are you most passionate about?
My family, honestly. Yeah, pretty much above all else. If I was to rank everything in order, it'd probably be my family, my art, which ranges in where I'm going to be passionate from one day to the next. Illustration is always at the top because it's what I'm most familiar with, it's what I'm most capable in. But I like sculpting. I haven't done it since high school, but I really enjoyed it. I'd like to pick it up again someday. Claymation. I did a little bit of that when I was in high school. Lego. Oh my goodness, I love Lego, and not just like the pre-made
Yeah.
sets. Like I love making, custom
Yep.
stuff out of Lego. But again, that's all time. But because of the time thing, family is always number one, even above the art, because you only get so much time around here, so I've got my wife and a 4-year-old daughter and another on the way in October. So
Hmm.
so that's it. Cheesy answer, I guess, but
It works. No,
yeah.
that's very good. I was going to say when he said sculpture, I was like, oh no, Mr. Bill, and
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, it's funny. I was in my high school. We used to do these presentations at the Christmas what do you call it, assembly. Why couldn't I think of that word? At the Christmas assembly every year, we do these presentations, and so I was always involved in the creative side of that one way or another, be it doing a little bit of claymation or doing some voices in a little doll, like action figure based video that we were doing, or I was right on stage. I loved all that stuff.
awesome. What do you fear the most?
Lack of time, in a general sense, and just all the time. Um, I struggle a lot with finding the time that I need to do things. One of the biggest reasons that I started Walter was as a creative outlet. I got really, really stale on the creative side of my life for a while. What you end up doing when you're in a creative job, which you would probably understand this, or as you develop it more into a career, you definitely will. Unless it's exactly what you want to be doing, and that doesn't vary, it becomes very, very stale and unfulfilling very, very quickly. I've been doing the product design for it had to be 11 or 12 years now. Like it's a lot of fun. I don't take that back. It really is a lot of fun to do. But after doing it for so long, it really starts to pile up on you. But the problem that you run into when you have a creative day job is finding the energy, the juice to pour your creativity into something that is going to stimulate you more. I described it to my cousins once. Is basically it's like running on a treadmill all day from a bear, and then being told that you have to run more at the end of the day. No matter how much you like running, no matter how much you love that treadmill, after you've been chased by a bear on it for 8 or 9 hours, you do not want to get back on that treadmill, and you end up beating yourself up over it. And the funny thing is I still do it. And I haven't found a balance yet. Like I mentioned, all those things that I like to do, the sculpting and the Lego and things like that.
Mm.
And so the plan with Walter was, okay, here's a creative outlet. Here's something that, and Walter's kind of a variety show. It, really lets me draw a lot of different things. But now I've found that, okay, so now I've got my job and Walter, and I love them both. Obviously, I can't take time for my job. My family takes time, and Walter takes time. And now I've got no time to pursue Lego or sculpture or claymation or acting, or what I mean. It's a balance I'm still trying to find. I don't have an answer for that one, unfortunately.
Hmm. Well, it's you're at least aware of it. That's the main thing. A lot of people aren't actually aware of their time limits or limitations in general. Um, and I had Lego and I had Constructs as well. So I built
Yes.
the Enterprise and the Death Star out of Constructs. So that was
Oh,
my
nice.
thing back in the day. So good times. I guess the one final question I have here before I have to let you go, unfortunately, is the younger generation. You have a member of the young generation that are that looks up to you for inspiration and for guidance and everything along that line, and they'll eventually become inspirations themselves. But how can they inspire the generation after them?
Find what you're passionate about and embrace it. Be that however it may. One of the biggest things that I always tell anybody young that wants to pursue a creative career, and it can kind of be applied to any kind of career that you want to pursue, make sure that whatever you're going to do, that it supports you, it makes you happy, but supporting you is more important, unfortunately, because that's just kind of the world that we live in. Not everybody is going to find that pot of gold. Not everybody is going to find that magic niche that turns them into the next internet comic or toy sensation or whatever. And the reason that I tell it that way is because that's how I've applied my life. I turn my creativity into a career. It's not precisely what I would want to be doing, but it is entertaining. It pays the bills. It allows me to have a house and a family and everything like that. And I keep the fun stuff, the real stuff that I'm really passionate about, to the side, only because I've seen people, just kind of throw their lives away, like just by never making a decision, never committing to anything. I'm gonna be an artist, or I'm gonna be a jewelry designer, or I'm gonna own a restaurant, and meanwhile they're still working at Arby's or Walmart or what have you. Not that there's anything wrong with those job choices, but they're not. That's not why they're doing that. They're not there, set in that and paying the bills. They're there waiting for the next thing to come rather than driving it themselves, making it happen.
Yeah, I know all too well about that. Yeah. If I didn't quit my job at a call center, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be at university. I wouldn't be having a fire relit under my behind and my ass and get me into gear to do something that was, that I'm passionate about. And Mike, this has been an amazing interview, a worthwhile interview. Thanks for bringing me down memory lanes once or twice and a roundabout again. So that was a blast. Love it. And is there anything I didn't touch upon that you'd like to let everyone else know about, those that are watching and listening on this show?
Can I plug my Patreon?
By all means, please do.
Okay. Yeah.
I was going to plug mine.
Well, there you go. My Patreon is patreon.com/wicked. That's one of the greatest things about getting in on the ground floor on something like that. Wicked should be totally taken. Somebody should have nabbed that, but no, it's patreon.com/wicked. That's where you'll find Walter the Wicked, and if you'd like to support me there, I'd be greatly appreciated.
Very good stuff. I thank so much, Mike, for coming on the show here. It's a true pleasure, and say hi to the Twix guys again too, because I love their stuff. I've been on the show, and I got to get them on TGT here as well too. We're trying to get that scheduled, but they're busy guys.
Yeah, well, the younger one is traveling all the time, and the older one's got a new baby himself. So, but I'll put in a good word for you. I'll let him know I was chatting with you.
Wonderful, love it. Well, that ends this episode of episode 367 with, of course, Mike Hearn from Walter the Wicked Comic, which is walterthewicked.com, and of course, take a look at his work, support his Patreon, and look at his fun comic that is just a blast to read, and you'll have fun reading it either way. And don't forget to leave him comments and all that stuff, just to tell him that you read it, because hey, we all love comments and support and all that other jazz. So next episode we have who do we have? Oh yes. Next episode, we have two comic creators, Chris Howard and Jeff Wessong, from the comic Dressed for Success, and that'll be episode 368. That'll be on tomorrow, and I hope that everyone takes the time to go through tgtmedia.com, go through our archives, take a look at our over 600 interviews that we have listed there. Make sure you go onto our iTunes, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and please give a rating as well, because the more ratings we get, the more people get to see our show. And of course, that's itunes.com and search for Two Geeks Talking. Finally, of course, we have our Patreon account as well. That's patreon.com/Two Geeks Talking. I figured that would be taken, but it isn't. Go figure. And of course, you can support us $1 a month. Every little bit helps, and we appreciate it as well too. And thanks again, Mike, for coming on the show. I hope you have a great rest of your day and a wonderful time here. And I want to see you back on maybe next year too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that sounds great, Kurt. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. And have a great night, everyone, and tune into the next episode.